Okay, hello, everybody. Where's everybody at? Oh, wow. Terry, you're first in chat. Oh, where's everybody at? Did you watch all the show from the first one? That's good. Good videos this afternoon. I know there's so much stuff, and I try to stay on as long as I can. Tomorrow is shopping day, so tomorrow won't be on till probably 4. I don't understand why no one. It says 7 showing here. Yep. Wow, even Lori H. We got 2 new ones on top of the list first, Carol. Terry and Lori.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen?
Oh, boy. Oh, you don't see? She's right in the middle or right below you from the first text.
Good morning, ladies and
Be right back. Okay, I hope everybody gets in here. We got a lot of good stuff again tonight. We got two important videos from Nick tonight, you guys. Nick doesn't normally have 25-minute videos, so he has a big video today, and he has a 10-minute one. Hopefully we'll get everybody in here. Tim's not in yet. Paul and we're going to go ahead and get started because we got to probably get a lot out. So oh, awesome.
At any time play any role in Jeffrey Epstein's activities involving my recruitment, grooming, or trafficking of young women or girls.
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell, have you ever coerced, directed, or otherwise instructed any young woman or girl to provide sexual favors to Mr. Epstein or any other individual?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Are you aware of Donald Trump ever engaging in sexual activity with an individual introduced to him by you or Jeffrey Epstein?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell, did you and Jeffrey Epstein attempt to surround yourselves with influential individuals to curry favor and shield yourselves from potential scrutiny?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell is prepared to speak fully and honestly if granted clemency by President Trump. Only she can provide a complete account, and some may not like what they hear, but the truth matters. For example, both President Trump and President Clinton are innocent of any wrongdoing. Ms. Maxwell alone can explain why, and the public is entitled to hear that explanation.
Ms. Maxwell, did you at
What are they hiding? Why can't they ever tell the truth?
Jeffrey Epstein. The reason you don't see me in the news is because I am a real victim. Real victims are not being represented by attorneys or in the media. I was trafficked to Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor by Deborah Palfrey, the DC madam. I was a student at the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. in 2002. I answered an ad in the city paper. The ad was ambiguous. Deborah was professional. I thought I was going on a real job interview. Instead, I was drugged and raped by Paul Hung. I tried to tell Deborah what happened, but something she said made me realize she knew what happened. At that point, they had my driver's license, and I did not know what to do or where to go for help. At that point, I was driven by Jonathan Luna to the Bethesda Marriott on Hooks Hill, where Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor drugged and raped me. I have tried to get help. I called the police. I was abducted for 2 weeks. I was moved from Washington, D.C. by Ed Norris, who was the superintendent of the Maryland State Police. He is now an actor on the show The Wire and has a radio show. My name is Jessica Collins. I live in Virginia. Today is September the 3rd, 2019. If anything happens to me, it's because this information is true, and I have a lot more information about who I was trafficked to in the government, people who are in the White House today. If you could redistribute this video, please save it and redistribute it. If anything happens to me, at least I have this out. I have been threatened. My car was disabled by a government employee when the Jeffrey Epstein news broke. I have been without a vehicle for 40 days. I don't know what else to say. Please save this video. Please redistribute it.
Where'd it go?
Please try and spread it. There is no way that this is going to get out there in the media unless we, the American people, do the work. The government is involved, and I was trafficked for nearly 17 years.
Well, I got the first 3 big videos there, Fine Eagle. First 3. I'm going to do this one on a phone real quick for Kay.
Ready, New York. Mom Donnie will shit on you more than all the birds have. Get ready, New York. Mom Donnie will shit on you more than all the birds have. Get ready, New York. Mom Donnie will shit on you more than all the birds have. Get ready, New York. Get ready, New.
That was for Kay.
Where she's pleading the 5th. I want to talk about
Oh,
Todd Blanche.
3 and a
He's
half.
pissing me off with his interviews, and so I did some digging on the timeline. Buckle up. I spent my career at the CIA and NSA and advised other intelligence agencies. I now have my own corporate intelligence firm. All of these opinions are my own. This assessment is my own for entertainment purposes only. All right, so Blanche, who's the deputy AG, who's the condescending a-hole who gets up there and says, it's not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. What do you mean men who had sex with girls? What? His smug ass face needs to go. Anyway, he was Trump's personal lawyer through 3 trials: the hush money trial, the classified documents trial, and the January 6th trial. And then when Trump wins, becomes president in January, he appoints Todd Blanche as his deputy AG. The minute that happens, Todd Blanche says, hey, New York, I want all the files. Move them to Washington. The Epstein case is mine now. He fires Maureen Comey. She's the one who convicted Ghislaine Maxwell. Fired her. First red flag, the one person who gets a conviction of Ghislaine is fired. Todd Blanche then closes the investigation. He's like, it's done. Nothing to see here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Then he flew down and interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell and sat with her for 9 hours. In that, he asked Maxwell about Trump, and she said, absolutely never. What? She's smart. He didn't ask who she trafficked girls to. He didn't ask about destroying documents. He didn't ask about that. It was about Trump. And then after he did this, with no other of the prosecutors present who had been on the case prior, it was just him and her, she gets moved to a minimum security prison, which is unprecedented. Never happens for a crime like hers to be in a minimum security prison. With a puppy, she gets her own meals, like her own catered meals, and the warden himself is helping her write her commutation document to Trump to get out. And now she's on the testifying at the House, pleading the Fifth. Then Todd Blanche gets up there and says, I don't know what you guys are talking about. There is not enough evidence. Maybe he's the one that I should be mad at, not Pam Bondi, because it seems like he is the one who was put in place to keep her straight. I am thinking that that is what happened, because these smug motherfuckers who keep getting up and laughing and brushing this off make me sick. And they're the ones who need to be held accountable for what's happening. For him to do this, to fire the attorney who got Ghislaine Maxwell convicted, to take the case, close it, and then treat us like there's nothing to see here. Red flags. Someone do a follow the money on this man. Pissing me off. Ghislaine Maxwell.
You settle down. Get on the couch. That was a good one from her again.
Story and the media's just obsession with her. Kind of strange.
Thank you, guys.
I mean, she's not any big name personality. I mean, hell, her daughter isn't even a huge name. Why is this such big news? Why is it wall-to-wall coverage? I kept thinking, there is something, they are using this story to get our eyes off something.
Yep.
Well, I went back and I looked at the timing of things. The Epstein files, they dropped January 30th. Nancy Guthrie went missing February 1st. The timing is pretty interesting, if you ask me. What do you think? Could there be a correlation there?
A lady from Minnesota. I got 2 Q videos.
Imagine wherever he is, Obama has to be absolutely right now, because at every step it seems like Trump is just dismantling everything that was important to Obama, from Obamacare to now wiping away the very foundation of Obama's legacy, which was the dismantling of energy in the United States, labeling, what was it, 6 greenhouse gases that were detrimental to health and public safety in the United States. Now, on the surface, that sounds pretty benign, right? It sounds like, oh, well, we all want clean air and clean water. Of course we do. We all watched Captain Planet, and we watched the commercial of the Native American man on the canoe with the tear in his eye. No one loves the outdoors more than myself. The problem is that Obama was so incredibly hell-bent on regulating energy in this country that Obama put coal mines out of business, completely devastated Appalachia. He also made it almost impossible for us to be able to compete with our counterparts in production, because we couldn't create enough energy, because essentially we were limited to either solar or to wind, or nuclear was out of the picture. But there was this war on coal and war on the energy production that we had always known. And so now we need more energy because we're trying to be at the forefront of this AI battle and power these data centers. But we have coal plants all over the country that are capable of producing massive amounts of energy through clean coal, by the way, which is very much efficient. And again, as its name suggests, very clean, that we're unfortunately unable to unleash that power. So Trump this week has planned to end those regulations, to take the handcuffs off of the energy sector and off of the automotive sector, and allow them to create the best products that they can. And knowing that people, being as conscientious as they are, they're going to do everything they can to support and promote the most responsible and the most effective innovators. Let the market decide. Let the consumer decide. If we want things, trucks that are going to burn cleaner and more efficient, then we will do so. But putting entire industries out of business and putting entire industries out of work, it's saddening for me to see what's going on in Appalachia and many other places. And, you know, you'll get the Northeast people and the elites laughing and saying, oh, ha, ha. Well, you took people who were making great livings for their families, working the mines and things like that, saying, oh, we're going to put them out of business for now, but we got shovel-ready jobs and we're going to train them in other industries. That never happened. And now Donald Trump is seeing that and saying, we've got all the resources we need. We've got all the energy sources we need. We're going to take the handcuffs off of the industries and let them do what needs to be done. In the name of climate change, we watched the left dismantle our economy. And Donald Trump is saying enough is enough. We're going to dismantle it. We're going to put people back to work, and we're going to make America competitive again. Let me know what you.
Okay, that's the first one. Hey, Kate, lady on YouTube today had a real important video. Real important. It was really good. About Walmart taking advantage of the price tag on the meat and chicken. Well, actually, all the items. They're not the right size. I don't know. So you have to watch it. It's good. And I'll play Nick or one more cue. Then Nick video is long one tonight. That's unusual for Nick. It's 25, and then he has a 10-minute one. So I'll play that before you leave. What are you doing, huh? Where are you going? Huh? Yeah. Huh? Yeah. Say hi to everybody, huh? Say hi? Huh? Okay, go do your job. Go by the window. Come on. Get up there. Get up there and do your job. Earn your paycheck. Come on. Too cold for you? Huh? Yep, thanks, hey. Yep. What if Ariella heard him? Well, you get up there. Get up there.
Okay, I pray you are doing the same. I'm excited to come and talk to you guys because I am giving you 100% what I think about a story that came up yesterday, and I'm completely, as Kamala Harris would say, unburdened, because I'm going to give you guys my honest opinion on this. So my wife shared something with me last night, and it was from Thomas Massey. And Thomas Massey was talking about, well, I'll just read it to you. He said, last night I received a flash drive containing the complete list of files belonging to Jeffrey Epstein. Everything is there. Every billionaire, every campaign donor, every single person. Now, let me explain why you haven't heard anything about this on the media or in the media. Because they're all in there. They will do everything in their power to prevent these documents from being made public. Epstein was far more than just a pedo. He was an intelligence asset. He was part of a blackmail operation used to control billionaires, politicians, and world leaders. If this list ever sees the light of day, the system as we know it will collapse. The public has the right to know the truth, and I am not afraid to share it. Now, first and foremost, that's great. Fantastic. We already knew all of these things. We knew what Epstein was up to. We knew what he was doing. And really and truly, we knew after the conviction down in Florida, when he was said to have been an intelligence asset, and that's why they had to pull back U.S. Attorney Acosta. We already know all this. This was all information that was given to us. Now, I know many of you guys don't like Thomas Massey. I know the president says he doesn't care for Thomas Massey. Honestly, I don't have a lot of issues with Thomas Massey. It is not a crime to disagree with the president at times. He's voted for along with Democrats. That's not a crime either. It depends on the bill, and I haven't gone through all of the bills. I know there's a couple of bills that he has agreed with Democrats on when it came to spending and not wanting to spend, and also on surveillance of the American people. Those two specific instances, I'm not mad at him for not voting along with the Republicans. Sue me. But in certain instances, I get it. But this particular one really gets under my crawl. You're telling me that you have information that is damning to the elites. You're telling me that you have this information, that it would bring the system to its knees. And yet, instead of naming names, instead of releasing that information to the people, you say, if I were to ever use it, I'm not afraid to use it. Well, then use it then. I know that in the past, I've come on here and I've said, hey, Trump understands that if this information were to come out, that it would damage people who were in very high places, which would then destroy the economy. And I guess that's the argument here. Do you agree with Donald Trump's idea that it should not be released for sake of destroying the economy and it's destroying the system? Or do you feel at this point the economy is not working for the everyday man and this is not the republic that our founding fathers expected us to have? So if by opening up the window and shedding some disinfectant light on the situation would cause it to fold, then is that what we need? At this point, I'm not saying one way or the other. I probably need some more time and some more prayer to really come up with my true opinion on it. But my first thought are truth is never a bad thing. And if our system is not strong enough to stand up to the scrutiny of truth, then we don't have much of a system to begin with, and certainly not one that will last for generations to come. Now, that's my initial thought, but maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Do you guys agree with the idea that this thing should be kept quiet so as to protect the system, or do you say let it go? Comment below. I'll see you guys next time. Be blessed.
Okay, we got 2Q now. We got 2 Nickos. No second Billy Bean yet.
Is the affidavit, the probable cause, the evidence that the FBI used to justify their search warrant at Fulton County's election warehouse in Fairburn, Georgia. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is incredible. And I've already gone through it, and I can tell you for sure that the FBI definitely has them dead to rights. Now, there's nothing in here about foreign interference. There's nothing about Venezuela or China. This affidavit contains evidence from, I believe, 11 different witnesses who claim various things, everything from missing ballot images to duplicate scans to seeing notes on computers where election officials are pointing out the fact that the numbers don't match up. Now, I want you guys to understand the meat and potatoes here. We're not going to go through every single line on this 22-page document. My goal is to make this short, concise, and easy to understand. So I'm going to give you guys the meat and potatoes. So first and foremost, this affidavit was submitted by Hugh Raymond Evans, special agent of the FBI, who says he has reason to believe that on the property or premises known as 5600 Campbellton Fairburn Road, Fairburn, Georgia, there is now concealed certain property, certain data, and certain information which constitutes evidence of the commission of a criminal offense and property which has been used as the means of committing a criminal offense concerning violations of Title 52, United States Code, Section 20701 and 20511, over which the United States District Court for the Northern District of Georgia has jurisdiction. Now, here are all the things that the FBI requested: all physical ballots, all tabulator tapes, all ballot images, all voter rolls from the 2020 election. And the reason they're asking for these things is to prove whether or not Fulton County violated Title 52, specifically Section 20701, which requires election officers to retain election records for 22 months following an election. And it makes it a crime to knowingly and willfully deprive the residents of a state of a fair and impartially conducted election process. So it is required by law that the state retain these documents for a period of 22 months, and it's against the law to knowingly and willfully deprive the residents of a free and fair election. So the FBI special agent is saying to the judge, we believe that Fulton County has violated the law here, either by not retaining the records they were supposed to, or by knowingly committing fraud. And therefore, we need these items so that we can see whether or not Fulton County complied with the law or whether they violated the law. And so the probable cause, which they used to present to the judge to convince them that it was necessary that they conduct this investigation and get those items, it goes as follows. So following the November 3rd, 2020 presidential election, there were many allegations of electoral impropriety relating to the voting process and ballot counting in Fulton County, Georgia. Some of those allegations have been disproven, while some have been substantiated, including through admissions by Fulton County. This warrant application is part of an FBI criminal investigation into whether any of the improprieties were intentional acts that violated federal criminal laws. Now, you see this part I have highlighted in red? Check this out. So the FBI criminal investigation originated from a referral sent by Kurt Olson, who is the presidentially appointed director of election security and integrity, and he's also the attorney that represented Carrie Lake in her lawsuit, Carrie Lake v. Hobbs in Arizona. Do you guys remember that? Kurt Olson was an election attorney that was very central to fighting back after 2020, represented numerous plaintiffs that brought cases to challenge election results, and then was appointed to be the director of election security and integrity. And he's the one that gathered this evidence and then sent a referral to the FBI. That's pretty crazy. I didn't know that. That's new information for all of us. And check this out, because I had a little bit of a hunch. My spidey senses were tingling, and I already knew that the moment I saw the name Kurt Olson, that the mainstream media was going to get to writing hit pieces about Kurt Olson and smearing his name to discredit him. And sure enough, there's already a New York Times article, Georgia ballot inquiry originated with election denier in Trump White House. So that's obviously why Fulton County wanted this affidavit unsealed, so that they could start to craft a defense and they could start to smear the sources. Now, luckily, all of the witnesses, their names are redacted, but it's going to be so easy for them to triangulate back to who these witnesses are. And what they're going to do now is they're going to launch a full-blown media campaign to smear and discredit and try to make this like a massive joke and an attempt of intimidation and a rehashing of already debunked claims of election fraud. You know, they're going to start destroying the credibility of this whole thing, and that's why they wanted the affidavit unsealed. But the problem is, if you have them dead to rights and you have a bulletproof chain of custody on that evidence, like the FBI, if they're doing what they're supposed to do, and there is a documented step-by-step procedural chain of custody on every single thing, then it's going to hold up in a court of law, okay? And hopefully you got the good guys in there that know what they're doing. And so they can try to smear this any way that they can. But if the Trump team and the DOJ and the FBI actually know what they're doing and everything's above board, it doesn't matter what they say at the end of the day. Okay, now let's get into what we all came here for, the actual evidence that was put forth in this affidavit. So this investigation has presently focused on the following deficiencies or defects with the November 3rd, 2020 election and tabulation of the votes thereof. A, Fulton County has admitted that it does not have scanned images of all the 528,777 ballots counted during the original count, or the 527,925 ballots counted during the recount. So this is their own admission. They don't have the scanned images of all of these ballots. So they're missing, right? Now, B, Fulton County has confirmed that during the recount of votes, some ballots were scanned multiple times. This is something else that they've already admitted. Now, during the risk limiting audit, which is like a partial shell game type of BS audit that a lot of states do, where they look at a couple of ballots and it's not really an audit, but they do this to try to put to bed claims of election fraud. And it's like the state sanctioned audit. It's a total BS version of an audit. But anyways, during the risk limiting audit, auditors counting the votes by hand reported vote tallies for batches inconsistent with the actual votes within the batch. So during the audit, the auditors counting the votes by hand reported vote tallies for batches inconsistent with the actual votes within the batch. So the batch, it says there's supposed to be this many votes in here. We did a hand count and it doesn't match what they said was supposed to be in here. Now, auditors assisting in the risk limiting audit also reported counting purported absentee ballots that had never been creased or folded, which would mean the pristine ballots. The absentee ballots, which are supposed to be tri-folded into an envelope and then sent by mail, they noticed that there were pristine counterfeit looking ballots that had never been creased or folded. Now, on the day of the deadline to report the recount results, Fulton County reported a recount totaling 511,343 ballots, 17,434 ballots fewer than originally counted. The following day, Fulton County then reported a total of 527,925 ballots counted. Now, if these deficiencies were the result of intentional action, it would be a violation of federal law, regardless of whether the failure to retain records or the deprivation of a fair tabulation of a vote was outcome determinative for any particular election race. So what that means is, even if we don't prove that Trump won the election in Georgia, these people have still violated the law if they did any of this intentionally, and therefore will be prosecuted. And let's remember that while Fulton County has admitted to a lot of these discrepancies, like not retaining ballot images, duplicate scans, et cetera, numbers not matching up, they've written it off as, an election which was poorly managed. These are just rounding errors. They were not intentional. They were accidental whoopsie-daisy boo-boos that, we didn't mean to, but there's not enough fraud to overturn the election, so none of it really matters, right? And because it was all unintentional, nobody should be held accountable. Well, the FBI is saying otherwise. They have reason to believe that a lot of what happened was done on purpose. And so that's what they're trying to prove here. And if they can, then people will be going to prison. Now, we kind of talked about the brief summary of the evidence that they have, but to go along with that, to corroborate those claims, they have 11 witnesses in this affidavit. Now, their names are redacted, and I'm not even going to, I probably could figure out who some of these people are, but I'm not going to sit here. I'm already mentally exhausted from reading this whole thing once and then doing this video. So I'm not going to try to figure out who these people are. But we have like 11 witnesses here, and I'm going to summarize for you what I've gathered from each individual witness and kind of summarize it. So witness one, and I've taken some notes here. Witness one was a data analyst and chemical engineer conducting research on the 2020 election and discovered that the number of ballot images from the recount did not match the total number of ballots cast. He filed a formal complaint in July 2022, alleging that there were over 17,000 digital ballot images which were missing from the Secretary of State's website. Now, he also identified 36 errors in batch tallies from the risk limiting audit, including duplicated entries and incorrect tallies, showing a 100% vote for a single candidate. Now, I believe that's either Kevin Moncla or Joseph Rossi, just from based on the evidence, but I'm not sure. Witness 2, Republican-appointed state election board member, personally reviewed ballot images at the Secretary of State's office and found a note indicating a shortage of over 2,300 images compared to what was expected. Now, I want you guys to see this because it's one of the most damning pieces of evidence in the whole affidavit. So, Witness 2, again, had to go to the Secretary of State's office to review the ballot images. And she wasn't even sure if the images that she was reviewing were from the election or from the recount. But she was given a laptop to review the images at the Secretary of State's office, and she said there was 2 notes next to the laptop. One had her name and password to access the computer, and the other contained a note which said, quote, "Vince must have miscounted. Only 15,464 ballot images, short of 17,774 by 2,310. Now, after she saw that note, she noticed several things about the ballot image files right away. She noticed that the secure hash algorithm or SHA files were missing. Now, I don't know if you guys know what SHA files are. It's kind of a technical nerd type of thing here, but the SHA files are like these files that are created with a unique hash code. It's like this long code that gets created whenever you scan a ballot. So you scan a ballot, the image gets created, but also a corresponding SHA file gets created. And this is actually a protection mechanism. So if you ever were to like manipulate a ballot image, then that SHA file would reflect that. So if you were to try to take,
11
let's say,
minutes.
a ballot image and change a vote from
A very
Trump to
important
Biden
video.
or Biden to Trump, then you would see that file had been altered in the SHA file. So what she's saying is that the SHA files were missing on 2,300 ballots. And yes, she says the SHA file guarantees that the TIF file has not been modified. So if they're missing, why are they missing unless these ballot images were manipulated or modified? So that's a bombshell in and of itself. But also you have this note next to the laptop where they're admitting that the numbers don't match up. Okay. Now she goes on to say that the SHA files were a red flag to her because it means that somebody manipulated the data. And she believed removal of the SHA files was an intentional act by someone. And I mean, yeah, that doesn't happen by accident. Now, she also noticed modification dates of these ballot images with the files well past the time frame of the 2020 election. She observed at least one file with the date modified of January 11th, 2024, along with others modified prior to January 11th, 2024. So she's able to see in these SHA files manipulation. Somebody was tampering with the ballot images. And let's think about this, folks. We had the the recount from Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, and it was published online. So it was a recount of the ballot images. And now the FBI has the physical ballots. So if there's a discrepancy here that they tried to bury, they tried to hide it in a recount of the ballot images, the actual ballots would show the real numbers. So if this is what they did, then we've got them dead to rights based on the sole fact that we have the physical paper ballots. Remember, the Secretary of State tried to pass off that ballot image audit as a means of saying that the machine totals were legit. He was like, look, we counted up the ballot images and they matched the machine totals. Now, if that was all fabricated and it was intentional, and we can prove that, Brad Raffensperger was reporting fake numbers to try to get the heat off of himself, then we got him dead to rights. Now let's talk about Witness 3. Okay, Witness 3 was a House-appointed state election board member who confirmed that ballot images were missing and said this should have been documented, and claimed that an image acts as a receipt for a ballot and that a hand count of physical ballots is necessary to remedy digital images. Now, Witness 3 also confirmed that Fulton County admitted that 315,000 ballots were not properly signed off on the tabulator tapes. Okay, so that's Witness 3. We kind of already knew that. Witness 4 is actually the director of elections for the Georgia Secretary of State, and there's a good reason why they are cited as a witness here, because they're basically saying that missing images could be just a matter of corrupted memory cards, and that there was no way there was large-scale tampering with the physical absentee ballots because there were so many people in the room during counting. Now, why would they cite this in their affidavit? Well, because they're trying to justify to the judge why they need to get access to the physical ballots. So we have the director of elections saying that, the ballot images might have been corrupted, but the physical ballots are the proof. Okay, so we're going to use their words against them as a means of justifying why we need to go in and take the physical ballots. So that's actually pretty smart to include that in there. Now, Witness 5, this is where we get into the duplicated ballots. We have a data analyst, who I believe is Kevin Moncliffe, I had to guess, concluded that duplicate ballots were included in both the original count and the recount, reporting 17,852 digital images were missing, and found it suspicious that these files were deleted around the same time duplicate votes appeared, suggesting the introduction of duplicate ballots may have been intended to make recount numbers match rather than change the election outcome. Now, let's get into this bombshell evidence from Clay Parikh, because this is one of the main things I wanted to share with you guys. So this is pretty damning stuff. Check this out. Now, Clay Parikh, we've interviewed him. He's a friend of mine. He's a cybersecurity expert, and he used to work for, I believe it was Pro V&V. Pro V&V is one of the logic and accuracy testing groups. They're these private companies that before an election, they come in, they test the machines, They make sure there's no cybersecurity issues and that they're ready to go before an election, right? Clay Parikh, he's got an extensive history in cybersecurity. And what he did was he filed an open records request and got the closed poll tapes from Fulton County. Now, the closed poll tapes are like at the end of an election, they print out this receipt paper, which gives you the data from the voting machine from the election day, right? And first of all, he noticed that some of the tapes were missing. But out of the 138 closing tapes that were provided by Fulton County, only 16 tabulators accounted for approximately 315,000 ballots. And he said one tabulator that was used to close out 15 tabulator machines from 12 different locations. Now, how's that possible? It's not. It's impossible. And in addition, the poll closing time and reported printed times on several closing tabulator tapes were close enough in time that Parikh believed someone had to have manipulated the times on the reports. Now, Parikh believes this showed that the memory cards were removed from the original tabulator and put in another tabulator to print out the closing tabulator tapes. And check this out. So it gets better, right? So if you want to find intentional manipulation and you want to find the smoking gun, here it is. So Parikh also reviewed the protective counter number on the tabulator tapes. Now, what the hell is that? The protective counter is similar to an odometer on a vehicle. So whenever a ballot gets run through a machine, this odometer counts the number of ballots that a machine has counted in its lifetime, and it keeps like a running total. Now, he compared the protective counter at the start of the election and the end of the election, and what he found is that the protective counters on at least 5 tabulator tapes from the same unit were identical, and that some of the reported ballots scanned exceeded the protective counter number. Now, how is that possible? Again, it is actually impossible. So we're saying that we have more ballots than the machine actually scanned. Now, this indicated to Parikh that no ballots were ever scanned on these machines, and that the numbers generated from those ballots were done so by placing an unencrypted memory card into the unit to generate the closing tape. So they just completely fabricated the closing tapes to produce the numbers that they wanted them to produce by inserting a memory card. And Clay Parikh, he knows how this works. He knows these voting machines inside and out. He's an expert on the matter. So, ladies and gentlemen, that alone is a smoking gun. This proves that these machines were in fact tampered with to produce fake results. Now, let's remember, guys, the tabulator tapes for 315,000 ballots were not properly signed, and the state election board for Fulton County has already admitted this. Now it's starting to make sense why those tabulator tapes were not properly signed, because they were completely fabricated. Clay Parikh basically proved that. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is a smoking gun here, 100%, and the physical ballots will show it. We've got this whole section about pristine ballots and all the people that were involved in the risk limiting audit and the counting of ballots that saw pristine ballots that looked like they had been copied. They were all filled in exactly the same. The bubbles were identical. So they were photocopied fake ballots. And if that is within the evidence that the FBI has in their possession, that again is another smoking gun. And so what do we have here, guys? There's a lot of stuff I'm going to skip over. We have this report from Seven Hill Strategies, a report, et cetera, et cetera. And that's pretty much it. That's the meat and potatoes of the evidence that they have. But what do we really have here? We have a number of discrepancies and things missing and things that were fabricated and Shaw files that are supposed to be there but aren't, but have been modified in other locations. And ladies and gentlemen, what this does is it spells out an entire web of manipulation to make the reported results and the recount results match what the ballots do not. So if the FBI has the physical paper ballots that show the real results, regardless of whether or not there's fake counterfeit ballots in there, because they'll be able to detect that, that is going to be the proof that there was in all these discrepancies and things that they said were miscalculations and errors and accidents and booze, that it was all done intentionally to reflect a fake result. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is absolutely damning, and I guarantee you that Fulton County is pissing their pants right now, and they are crafting a defense. They wanted this affidavit for a reason, and the reason is so that they could try to debunk all these claims, discredit the witnesses, discredit Kurt Olson and everybody involved, so that they can try to put forth a motion to get the evidence back and stop this investigation. But I don't think there's any way in hell that they'll be successful in doing that. But right now, they're going to do everything they can to try to control the narrative. So be prepared for the attacks because they are coming. But ladies and gentlemen, the FBI either has the evidence of fake election results in their possession, or they have the destruction of evidence in their possession. And either way, people are going to go to jail over this, ladies and gentlemen. So this was just kind of a conclusive overview of the affidavit. It took a lot of energy.
That was one of his big videos he had in a long time, I think. Because he normally doesn't have 25-minute videos. Now this is his second one, is 10 minutes. -9 minutes.
Because it's pretty funny. Now, we know that President Trump can be petty at times, but he's also a very effective negotiator because he knows where the leverage is. He knows where the pressure points are. He knows exactly how to hit people, exactly where it hurts, to force them to the table to negotiate and give concessions. Now, Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, has been feeling that heat for some time after he went to Beijing, China back in early January to cut a deal over electric vehicles. Basically, Mark Carney thought it was a wise decision to go over to China and say, hey, we'd like to be stronger trade partners with China so we can diversify away from the United States because Trump, he's using tariffs and he's being a bully and he's slapping us around to try to level the playing field. We've been screwing America over for all these years, and now Trump comes in and he wants to change that. So now we are going to buddy up with China as a retaliation response. Now, obviously, Trump does not like that very much because we're already doing all this incredible work to kick China out of the Western Hemisphere and cut them off and wall them off from trade and make them feel pain. And so Mark Carney, the Davos globalist show that he is trying to be alpha daddy and make a power move when in reality, he's nothing but a beta cuck. And Trump is reminding him that he's nothing but a beta cuck. And that's why Mark Carney is being put back in the cuck chair once again. I made this image with AI and I couldn't wait to show you guys. And I know a lot of you guys out there are visual learners like me, so I made this to help you understand what's going on before we get into the story. So we have Mark Carney in the cuck chair being forced to watch as Trump is in bed with Canada, showing Canada what it's like to have a real man in charge. On the floor there, you see the broken bridge and a piece of paper with that says China trade with a red X over it. And so this image really encapsulates what's going on with Mark Carney cheating on us with China. He's now being put in his place and punished and forced to watch us take over Canada. And that broken bridge on the ground there is really what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, because yesterday Trump made an announcement. Let me get that off the screen. I know some of my grandma fans out there are going to absolutely hate what I just did, but I couldn't help myself. Now, let's get into this. So you see this bridge here? It's a beautiful bridge, right? And it's an expensive bridge. It cost $4.7 billion to construct this bridge, which is almost completed. Now, this is a bridge that connects Ontario to the state of Michigan, and it is critical infrastructure that is going to be essential to the automotive industry and the trade between Canada and the United States. Now, it is 98% finished, and Canada has been constructing this bridge for over a decade, and it is literally right around the corner to being finished. And Canada has paid for every cent of the construction of this bridge. Literally every penny of it has been paid for by Canada. And while Canada and the state of Michigan both see this piece of infrastructure as a means of lowering the cost of automotive production, and it's going to open up massively trade between Canada and the United States and make imports a lot cheaper and easier, Trump sees it as an opportunity to drop the hammer on Mark Carney. And so Trump has decided to take this bridge as a hostage. This is what he said yesterday. As everyone knows, the country of Canada has treated the United States unfairly for decades. Now things are turning around for the USA and fast. But imagine Canada is building a massive bridge between Ontario and Michigan. They own both the Canada and the United States side, and of course, built it with virtually no U.S. content. President Barack Hussein Obama stupidly gave them a waiver so they could get around the Buy American Act and not use any American products, including our steel. All right, I got to drop the accent if I'm going to get through this. Now, the Canadian government expects me, as president of the United States, to permit them to just take advantage of America. What does the United States of America get? Absolutely nothing. Ontario won't even put U.S. spirits, beverages, and other alcoholic products on their shelves. They are absolutely prohibited from doing so. And now, on top of everything else, Prime Minister Carney wants to make a deal with China, which will eat Canada alive. We'll just get the leftovers? I don't think so. The first thing China will do is terminate all ice hockey being played in Canada. So and permanently eliminate the Stanley Cup. The tariffs Canada charges us for our dairy products have for many years been unacceptable, putting our farmers at great financial risk. I will not allow this bridge to open until the United States is fully compensated for everything we have given them. And also importantly, Canada treats the United States with the fairness and respect that we deserve. We will start negotiations immediately. With all that we have given them, we should own perhaps at least one half of this asset. The revenues generated because of the U.S. market will be astronomical. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So Trump is saying, not on my watch, okay? Obama gave Canada a waiver to build this bridge and violate and avoid the Buy America Act. We got screwed over. And so Canada built a bridge to the U.S. market using non-American steel and parts. And Trump is calling this out as weakness and is saying, pay up, okay? And he's protecting ice hockey in the Stanley Cup from China. It makes no sense. There's no connection whatsoever between this situation and ice hockey, but it's provocative and it gets the people going. And so this is what's really going down, okay? Mark Carney, he tried to make a power move. He thought he was playing 4D chess going to Beijing, but Trump has the on-off switch, okay? This bridge is useless unless the United States Customs and Border Patrol opens up the Detroit side of the bridge. If not, then it's basically just it's a hunk of steel sitting in the water and it doesn't have any purpose. It can't be used. And so Mark Carney thought that he was playing 4D chess, but he forgot that Trump owns the board, okay? Like, you have no power here and Trump holds all the cards. And so Trump is forcing Carney to the negotiation table to not only drop this China deal, but also drop the tariffs on the dairy industry that hurt our farmers and our agricultural industry. And he wants to also pressure Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan because, believe it or not, this hurts Michigan's automotive industry just as much as it does Canada. So he's putting pressure on multiple deep state players. And this is going to ultimately end up in a win because there's no way that Mark Carney can sit there and allow this. Whatever Trump wants to get this bridge open, it's going to happen because this bridge is critical infrastructure. They've invested billions. There's a lot of industries and power players that are banking on this piece of infrastructure opening up. And so it's 98% finished. And Trump at the very last moment said, nope, that's a nice bridge that you got there. Be a shame if something happened to it. So in the end, Canada is going to pay their fair share. They're going to drop the China deal. They're going to buy our milk, and they're going to be saying, thank you, Mr. President, as Trump cuts the ribbon on this nice new bridge that we now own half of, and it generates revenue from the toll money that it brings in. So, ladies and gentlemen, to me, this is petty, but it's hilarious and it's going to be effective. And again, it just exemplifies how Trump knows how to find the pressure points and the leverage to get things done. Whether it's with tariffs or whether it's with a bridge, Trump knows how to hit people where it hurts. And you may say that he's crass and you may say he's too aggressive, but ladies and gentlemen, the man knows what he's doing.
Okay, we had two good Nick videos tonight. I got a new one finally go. I think we haven't played it. It's 7 minutes. Out of Tennessee.
Update on Nashville. I've not been on here a lot the past few days. I have been emailing, phone calling, like I was during the ice storm, to try to get answers from local, state, and federal representatives. Let me take a sip. So when all this started, I was emailing local, state, and federal representatives after it got a few days out. You can't, I understand it might take a few days during a storm, but when it got to be a week, then I really upped my thing. I called my local news station, got a story done on there. I used my voice as much as I could to get the word out. But we are now going on day 18, and I think it says there's 9 customers. And from what I could tell from the map, it is individual households, not like big apartment complexes, but 18 days in. And then I posted the video of there's certain counties in Tennessee that are going to have their water supply shut off, and they don't have reserves. So what they have is what they have. So what can you do? If you need to see what I personally, don't just take my word for it, but you can look back on my page and see I started telling the story from day one. So you can kind of see every day I was trying to update the numbers and stuff on what was going on and what the conditions were like. Right now, it's a cleanup process. One thing about Nashville and Tennessee in general is that people really do come together as far as little local neighborhoods. It really is surprising to me how little information has been out there for local people just to get help. Like right now, everybody in my neighborhood and the neighborhoods I've seen around me. Now today I'm driving almost an hour north of Nashville, and I want to see what the progress looks like there from last week. I was up in Gallatin last Monday, so I want to see what it looks like today compared to last week when I was there, because last week there were just trees everywhere. But it's mainly just people getting out and using chainsaws and getting trees. And now, all the corners have trees piled up on them. And so now we're waiting to see when the brush pickup begins, because now it's just Nashville as a whole was not prepared for this. As citizens individually, you can only prepare so much. I spent the funds that I had to spend to get ready, because, you still had to pay bill, basics, light, water, electric, food had been paid that week, and then the storm was going to hit. So I did what I could, as did many Nashvillians. But it's just the longer this goes, and NES keeps talking about they're having board meetings. What are you talking about in your board meetings? I hope you're not patting each other on the back, because the linemen that came in from other states to help us saved your butt. But you still need to answer for the fact that you turned away thousands of them. Like, why? Nashville was not okay. We needed the extra help. I have a sneaking suspicion the money you didn't spend on the linemen, you're about to spend on attorneys. Maybe. So, if you still know anybody in the Nashville area that needs help, message me. Like if you know somebody individually, or if you know somebody lives in an area that was hit really bad, let me know, because we are still trying to coordinate and get people to those who help. But there's a lot of people, like elderly people, who cannot physically get out and do this stuff, or may not know of people to get out and do this stuff, or may not be able to afford help. I had somebody come look at that tree, or call me to look at the tree. They wanted $1,000 to look at it. There it is. It's a tree. That'll be $1,000. Now, if we need to do anything, it'll be more. I can't do that. Now, luckily, the tree ended up. I lost 4 branches on it, but the ones that did fall on my roof right there, it didn't do any damage to speak of that I can see anyway. But anyway, yeah, Nashville. This city has a lot of explaining to do to its residents, and it will come. But if you're asking how to help, if you're one that likes to email and call, you can call Governor Bill Lee's office, Mayor Freddie O'Connell's office. Senator Blackburn has been vocal. You can email her. Andy Ogles has been vocal. You can email him. Although his district, he's part of his district is in Nashville. So yeah, he's a good person to email to. Anyway, but I ramble, but this was kind of a long update because there's a lot going on. It's just, it is not well organized. And nobody's taking accountability on a, official level. It's a shame. But the people of Nashville, to those linemen who did come work in these horrific, awful conditions, thank you. We love you. To the linemen that worked for NES, we love you and we thank you. And to all those phone operators that were probably just doing their best, I can only imagine how frustrated people were talking to the operators. We will have to have answers from all of these people. And somebody, I said in one of my videos, I accidentally said 4,000 instead of 4 million, but then I found out they actually trimmed over the past 3 years $7 million from the tree trimming budget. $7 million to preserve our canopy. I get it, but I don't get why you would put the city in danger. That's why a lot of the counties around Davidson County did not get hit as bad, is because their tree trimming was in check. So those trees aren't looking too pretty now, chopped up on the ground because they fell on people's houses and took out power lines. So that is what you can do. I will put the number again on the screen.
Okay, that's the latest update of Tennessee with the bad situation there.
Stabilization program. Darren Tello joins me. All right, Darren, how much money did they get away with?
Hi, good morning, Stuart. According to the Department of Justice, about $3.5 million. The 2 men pleading guilty, this happened today, of scamming Medicaid beneficiaries, get this, at both homeless shelters and Section 8 housing. And what's most notable about this, Stuart, this case, according to the DOJ, is that this represents the first charges involving the use of artificial intelligence to further a fraud scheme targeting healthcare programs in Minnesota, with the 2 fraudsters concealing the scam by using AI, including ChatGPT, to create fake records when questioned by insurance companies. Exclusive to Fox, this is this morning, Attorney General Pam Bondi releasing this statement saying, criminal fraud not only robs taxpayers, it shatters trust in our institutions. Under President Trump's leadership, today's convictions are just the beginning. Prosecutors will work tirelessly to unravel criminal fraud schemes and charge their perpetrators in Minnesota and across the country. All this news is coming as 2 Senate committees hold high-profile hearings this afternoon on Capitol Hill about fraud and foreign influence in government programs, with one in particular focused on the billions of dollars in suspected fraud tied to welfare programs in Minnesota.
In Minnesota, a welfare system designed to uplift the most vulnerable children was treated like an open ATM. exploiting both taxpayers and the public trust extended to immigrant communities. Over the last decade, Minnesota Democrats didn't just fail to stop the fraud. They made it easy and profitable.
And Stuart, this is not just in Minnesota, it's in other states as well. The Small Business Administration on Friday suspending more than 100,000 California borrowers over nearly $9 billion in suspected pandemic-era fraud. Stuart?
All right, Darren, thank you.
Okay, more fraud. Five minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, there is fraud in so many areas of life. I mean, there's tax fraud, there's welfare fraud, there's Medicare fraud, there's Medicaid fraud. There is a lot of fraud, correct? And yes, I guess we can focus on immigration fraud, which is part of what this hearing is all about. But it can, maybe Mr. Beer, since you have research in this area, with all of this the massive fraud that occurs, especially I would say in the Medicaid, Medicare space, do you think that immigration fraud constitutes the majority of the fraud that is going on in our country?
No, I have no way to possibly answer that question. I would just say, look, if someone's committing fraud to come to the United States, it's not something that's going to be quantified in the same way as stealing from Medicaid. I mean, it's just they're different measures. So, we looked at the monetary value. 95% of all the monetary losses to the government from government benefits fraud is by U.S. citizens, not non-citizens. And the non-citizen on a per capita basis is 30% less likely to...
So I think that some of the other areas of fraud that I cited, these are massive fraud that are being committed. It's hard to say, and they ought to be investigated and prosecuted, but much of the fraud in our country is perpetrated by U.S. citizens, not by immigrants. Now, we know that this is a regime that is totally intent.
Did she just say all the fraud is from Americans? I don't think so. I can't believe she said that.
On deporting as many immigrants as possible. We have about 11 million undocumented persons. How this regime is supposed to be deporting all these people is really beyond me. But nonetheless, we have a Steve Miller who says, no, I want you all to arrest at least 3,000, get at least 3,000 people and put them into our detention facilities, for which they now have some $40 billion thanks to the big ugly bill. So you have all of these resources, including the Department of Justice. They are just about every department that has anything to do with law enforcement is being directed to immigration enforcement. So we have a regime that wants to deport people. And so we have this hearing that is focusing on fraud being committed by a group of Somalis. And I tell you, I listened to the depiction of Somalis as a country where they seem to be producing all these people who are prone to fraud. And I just want to have a really short response from the professor. When you were sat here listening to the portrayal of Somalis as basically fraud prone, and having worked in a community with a lot of Somalis, did this portrayal of a whole people come as a shock to you?
It comes as a huge disappointment.
And not only that, did it strike you as being fair?
It's not fair. The framing of this on top of the president's statements, the framing of this hearing is wrong.
So
there's no evidence the Somalis are responsible for a greater degree of illegality than any other immigrant population.
Yes. Okay. And Mr. Beer, you talked about reducing our deficit. I would say the majority of the 11 million undocumented people here, what are they doing? They are working. They are buying stuff. They are going to our grocery stores and doing all that. They're paying taxes. They even pay Social Security taxes, many of them, without ever hoping for any kind of payment from Social Security. So they are there being part of our community. That is why we have a whole ag segment saying our produce is dying literally in the fields and on the vines. See, these are, I don't know why we are sitting here focusing on a community that is just trying to make a life for itself. So rather than focusing on all the fraud that is going on and all these other massive areas of our lives, sitting here with yet another hearing, and I don't know how many more hearings we're going to have focusing on the Somalis, but it is all in the service of trying to come up with a way for our regime to justify going after a group of people. And since when do ICE agents and Border Patrol see as their mission beating up American citizens, murdering them, dragging them out of cars, and that is their mission and their jobs?
It's too hard to find fraudsters. That's the problem. They aren't everywhere on every street corner. So they're out harassing random people. That's the fundamental problem.
You know,
is that there aren't actually that many immigrant criminals. So what are they doing? They're harassing us.
Yes.
They're
So
harassing
I heard the
citizens of
depiction
the
that
United
they're
States.
doing their jobs. That's part of the mission. Since when? Thank you.
Oh my God. What state is she from? I don't think she's an American, is she? Sounds like she's another foreign. She a foreign senator?
Employment to W-2s. Pay only $150 to get your taxes done by a local expert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Guess who?
Professor Schwartz.
7 minutes.
You're a professor at the University of Minnesota.
Yes.
Okay. Beautiful state, by the way. Wonderful state.
It's a wonderful state.
Some people in your beautiful state went to your state Medicaid department and said, we want some taxpayer money, some being state taxpayer money, some being federal taxpayer money, to feed the poor. And these entities that did that got the money. And then they stole it. But to help cover their tracks, well, before I go there, do you think those people should be prosecuted?
I think if there is reason to pursue prosecution, of course they should be prosecuted.
Okay. Do you think their ethnicity should matter?
The ethnicity of these people should not matter.
Okay.
Not a bit.
Now, some of these thieves also went to some restaurants and said, I need a fictitious invoice that you fed 100 people. You're not going to feed 100 people.
Oh, okay.
You're just going to help me steal the money, and I'll kick back some of the money to you.
Japan.
Do you think those restaurant thieves should be prosecuted?
I think if they have committed crimes, they should be prosecuted.
Regardless of their ethnicity.
Regardless of their ethnicity.
Okay. You had some other people in Minnesota who had a different scam. They went to the Medicaid department and said, I need state taxpayer money and federal taxpayer money to provide services to autistic children. And they got the money. And then to maximize the fruits of their theft, they went to well, first, do you think those people who
same answer to the question?
Okay. Now, in order to generate more money they could steal, they went to some families and said, do you have children? And some of the families said, yeah, we have kids. And they said, the thieves said, are your children autistic? And they said, well, no. And the thief said, well, would you agree to sign paperwork to say they're autistic if we kick back to you some of the money? Do you think those families should be prosecuted?
Same answer.
Okay. And you don't think their ethnicity should matter?
Not a bit.
Okay. All right, is it Hankerson? Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Hankerson. Did I understand you to say that you have studied immigrant communities throughout the United States in terms of fraud levels on social services?
Not specifically, no. I've done visa interviews in many countries, tens of thousands of them, and I've looked at reports about fraud
I
levels.
misunderstood you. I'm sorry about that. It's been a long day. Mr. Beyer, am I saying your name right?
It's Mr. Beer.
Mr. Beer. I like beer better.
Most people do.
Tell me that, I think I heard you say that some people, some folks who've come to our country and are trying to get status to stay, have applied to the Department of Health of DHS, and they've paid money, and DHS is doing nothing.
Oh, that's right. Yep, they're
That's
sitting
a-
on
that's
their
a-
applications, not
that's a-
processing them.
That's a pretty bold statement. How many people? I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know. How many people we're talking about?
About half of the immigrant flow right now.
So how
90 countries are
how many
affected
people-
by the
how many
State
people is-
Department ban.
How many people is that?
Well, it's at least 300,000 abroad and probably twice that when you consider the
you're
people already in
that,
the U.S.
that 300,000 folks have gone to DHS to seek some kind of permanent status or semi-permanent status to stay. At least 300,000, and they paid money to DHS, and DHS has done nothing. Is that what?
That's right. Yeah, they're sitting on their applications.
Well,
or
who
they're
at
just
DHS is
putting
doing
them in the
that?
trash.
Who at DHS is doing this?
Oh, it's Joseph Edlow. He's
Who
in
is
charge of
Joseph
it. He
Edlow?
came up with this policy to just.
Who is he?
He's the head of USCIS. Joseph Edlow is the head of USCIS. He came up with this
He's the
policy
DHS?
where he is just.
Slow down a minute,
where
man.
he's
You've
just-
had too much coffee. He's at DHS?
I'm just from New Jersey. So.
I understand. Great state too. Who does he report to?
Secretary Noem, of course.
Okay. Does Secretary Noem know whether this?
I don't know what Secretary Noem knows, but she's aware of the general tenor of this
Well,
administration.
what's his name?
Joseph Edlow.
Mr. Edlow. Who's his boss?
Secretary Noem.
Oh, okay. And you can document all this?
Oh, absolutely. They put out a memorandum saying we're not processing these people, and Secretary Rubio is involved as well when it comes to the
Would
State
you send
Department.
me that memo, please?
I will absolutely send that to you.
I went
Yes.
way over. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Joe.
I appreciate that.
Senator
Thank you.
Kennedy, I'm informed that USCIS is slowing adjudication because of the huge backlog and the lack of vetting of these migrants during the Biden administration is the reason that we've been given.
Yeah, I don't know. I just heard Mr. Beer, and I'm not saying he's right or wrong. Those pretty bold allegations that they're taking the money and they're not doing anything. And I just want to know if it's true or not.
Well, they're making sure that these people are vetted so we don't end up with people like the National Guards woman here in Washington,
Yeah.
D.C. that was killed by an African.
I
admitted
mean, I
under
don't have a
parole.
problem with vetting. I just want to know whether what the witness is saying is true. No,
They're not
disrespect.
adjudicating them. They're not
Senator
processing.
Klobuchar.
Thank you very much, Chairman, Ranking Member Padilla. I believe that people who break the law have to go to jail, and people who steal taxpayer money have to go to.
Okay, that's that one on latest on Kennedy there. I got a important one, 2-minute one, artistic person, I think.
Not originate from here, from Earth. They originate from higher dimensions.
other planets, other star systems, and even other galaxies. These souls came here on Earth to help Mother Earth, aka Gaia, energetically, because this planet is suffering energetically. And these beings also came here to transmute darkness into light. These souls have a very high base frequency, and just because they exist here on Earth, even if they are still spiritually unawakened, they still help just by being here because they have such a high base frequency. These souls often feel like they don't belong here, they don't belong on Earth. They might feel homesick for a place that they don't even know about. They might be labeled as neurodivergent, They might think there's something wrong with them. But the reason they have these neurological symptoms is because their soul is usually very new to Earth. And they're not used to this level of darkness and density that we have here. Earth is the lowest vibrational planet in this entire universe. And if a soul comes from higher dimensions, it is going to be difficult to adjust to this density here, to this low vibration and low consciousness, especially this false matrix we have here, this work life, this financial life, this forced education and everything that don't exist in other planets. There are certain souls here on Earth that...
I thought that was a very important one there. A few minutes here on this one.
And some of them would do anything to stop you from hearing it. Listen, America, before we go any further, I need you to share this video right now, because what I'm about to break down isn't just another political fight. It's the kind of truth the establishment never wants reaching the public. Here's the first thing you need to understand. I didn't change my stance on transparency. I didn't change my stance on exposing predators. And I damn sure didn't walk back anything I ever said about the Epstein case. When I said, put on your big boy pants and tell us who the pedophiles are, I meant every single word. But becoming director of the FBI means I'm now responsible for something bigger than my personal opinion. I have to operate within the law, within federal court orders, and inside an active, ongoing criminal investigation. If I break those rules, the entire case collapses and predators walk free. And I'm not letting that happen. Perez, the truth, nobody else will tell you. We can't just dump evidence on the internet. Everything tied to Epstein is locked behind. Federal warrants, victim protection laws, open investigations, and even national security issues involving foreign actors Epstein worked with. But don't get it twisted. Under my leadership, the FBI has released more Epstein files than any administration in history. The full black book, flight logs, 2006, 2008 case records, warrant returns, photos, financials, everything we can legally release. And we're fighting in 3 federal courts right now to unseal even more. Meanwhile, while politicians scream about cover-ups, here's what the media refuses to show you. Under my direction, the FBI has arrested 1,500 child predators this year and 4,700 total across all task forces. We've rescued children in real time. We've dismantled trafficking networks across borders. That's the work happening while Congress grandstands on TV. Now, the question everyone really wants answered: who's on the list? Some names are innocent by association. Epstein inserted himself into high society long before people knew the truth. But let me be absolutely clear. There are individuals whose involvement goes far beyond charity events or business meetings. There are people who knew, people who facilitated, people who participated. And yes, some are names you would recognize immediately. Those cases are being built legally, painstakingly, quietly, because one mistake means they walk free. And unlike the leadership you saw in the past, I'm not letting anyone escape accountability because of money, fame, or political power. I didn't take this job to protect elites. I took it to rebuild an FBI that lost the trust of the American people by telling the truth, by releasing what we legally can, and by refusing to play politics with justice. This fight is far from over. Every day, we're pushing courts.
challenging SEALs, releasing documents, arresting predators, and moving this investigation forward. If you want the full truth, if you want transparency to win, if you want every guilty person held accountable, share this video, stay engaged, and don't let anyone, and I mean anyone, tell you the fight is over, because it's not. What I'm about to tell you.
Okay, cash update.
Supposedly final deadline has officially come and gone. Still, no answers, no resolution. However, we do have a brand new video from Savannah Guthrie. I'm going to break down her latest desperate plea to bring her mom home and show you exactly what investigators were up to all weekend while the clock was ticking. And then there's the Super Bowl, or whatever that was supposed to be, from Congressman Ro Khanna's painfully cringe political stunt outside Levi Stadium to a game that barely registered at polls to dueling halftime shows. We're going to show you who the public actually crowned the winner, because it definitely was not the NFL. Plus, Democrats are finally getting a rude awakening on voter ID. Turns out, even the mainstream media can only pretend for so long that asking someone to show their ID is Jim Crow 2.0. The narrative, it's cracking, and it's about time. Before we jump in, quick housekeeping. Like the video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe if you're new so you never miss the latest headlines. And yes, it is so good to be back with you all. Thank you for the kind words, the prayers, well wishes. For those that may not be aware, me and both my girls are officially influenza A survivors. And trust me, that is not a badge you earn easily. Oh my goodness, I have not been that sick in years. And even a week later, we are still fighting to get our footing back. But we're on the other side of it. We're grateful, and I'm back where I belong with you. So with that said, let's dive in, shall we? Well, not sure if you saw this, but ahead of the Super Bowl, a fleet of private jets landed in California because nothing screams save the planet like a parking lot full of carbon emissions. Meanwhile, us regular Californians here, we're being handed paper straws that dissolve faster than Democrats' climate logic. And it wasn't just climate posturing. Outside the stadium, we got a front row seat to Democrat grandstanding of a different kind.
I'm Congressman Ro Khanna. I'm going to be outside Levi Stadium all afternoon with my team to make sure there is no incident with ICE during the Super Bowl.
Yes, because illegal immigrants are totally dropping $6,000 on Super Bowl tickets. I mean, well, maybe if you run a daycare. But come on, this wasn't about safety. It was pure political theater. And it wasn't the only performance that fell flat. The halftime show, an absolute dud. I'm guessing a lot of you flipped over to Turning Point USA's halftime. And if you did, congratulations, you chose wisely. Because Bad Bunny was bad. And don't take it from me. Watch the crowd for yourself.
Okay, that was in that one there.
Charlie Kirk and Utah prosecutors, they aren't holding back. They are throwing the book at him. I'm going to walk you through the charges, plus the disturbing messages he exchanged with his roommate in the moments after pulling the trigger. These are messages that are so cold, they're hard to even hear. But that's not all. On Capitol Hill today, Kash Patel took the hot seat in a fiery hearing, and what unfolded may shock you. Democrats, under pressure, actually admitted something they have spent years denying. Yes, you heard me right. The truth, the drama, and even a little entertainment. It's all right here on The Carrie Lane Show. As always, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Now, before we get to the breaking news on Charlie Kirk's assassin and those chilling online messages that are now surfacing, I want to show you a little gem from Kash Patel's hearing today on Capitol Hill. Now, this was a previously scheduled hearing, so it wasn't called because of the assassination, but naturally, questions about that did come up. However, the moment that is lighting up social media wasn't about Charlie Kirk at all. It was a heated exchange between Kash Patel and Senator Mazie Hirono. Now, Hirono was upset that women are now required to do pull-ups to qualify for the FBI. Yeah, pull-ups. And watch closely, because for the first time in what feels like forever, you're about to hear a Democrat admit that men and women, wait for it, are physically different.
You are now requiring applicants to be able to do a certain kind of pull-ups, which a lot of women cannot because of physiological differences. Are you requiring these kinds of pull-ups?
We are requiring a physical program at BFTC at Quantico because FBI agents carrying guns in the field have to chase down bad guys and do really hard work. The physical fitness standards of those agents
So
are
are
being
you requiring
appropriately
these
assessed.
kinds of pull-ups?
We are requiring everybody to pass the 1811 standards at BFTC. If you want to chase down a bad guy
Excuse me,
and put
the
him in
reason I
handcuffs, you
asked-
better be able to do a pull-up.
The reason I ask is that there are concerns about whether or not being able to do these kinds of harsh pull-ups is really required of FBI agents.
Doing
Anyway,
one pull-up
Mr.
is not
Patel,
harsh,
I
and there are
am
always
greatly
medical
concerned.
exemptions to that.
Charges have now.
Okay, that was the second one. I got one more here.
It's taking on water, and the band is still playing while CNN is forced to admit voters are officially done with the left in a brutal new poll. Meanwhile, Republicans are racking up wins like it's Christmas morning. You're going to watch a CNBC host literally gasp on live television when the new inflation numbers drop. And let's just say, once again, Trump was right about everything. Then Dan Bongino is calling it quits at the FBI. I've got the details behind his departure there. Plus, the story the media isn't telling you about Rob Reiner's past. You're not going to want to miss a second of this. Like the video, subscribe if you're new here, and let's get into it. President Trump, he is stacking up wins on top of wins on top of wins, while Democrats are stuck with an approval rating still sitting in the sewer at a stunning 18%. Their base has shrunk down to their friends, family, illegal immigrants, and health insurance executives. In fact, it's so bad, even CNN can't spin it anymore.
How are voters feeling about Democrats right now?
Yeah, I mean, Democrats in the minds of the American public are lower than the Dead Sea. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look. The net approval rating for Democrats in Congress, you said it, Kate Baldwin, the lowest ever. Look at this. Overall, they are 55 points underwater. Their approval rating is south of 20%. It's even worse when you look at independents. Look at this, negative 61 points. That means that their approval rating is 61 points lower than their disapproval rating. Quinnipiac has been polling this question for the better part of the 21st century. They have never found Democrats, at least those in Congress, in worse shape than they are right now.
And yet Democrats still want to talk about President Trump's approval rating. Maybe they should start by looking in the mirror before continuing down this tired anti-Trump at all cost path, because it hasn't worked before and it's clearly not working now. And that's not the only bad news Democrats are waking up to today. Watch this CNBC host gasp in real time as new inflation numbers roll in and completely shatter expectations.
The number of the morning, the CPI, maybe coming in a little bit better than expected. 2.7%, a little light here. I'm just reading the headlines here. Year over year, 2.7, ex food and energy core, 2.6. So 0.4 off. That is a very good number here. Seasonally adjusted index for all items less food and energy rose 0.2% over the 2 months. So correct my math here, Michael Santoli, but 0.2 divided by 2 is 0.1.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's a very, very low monthly rate here.
The Democrats.
Okay, we got three of hers in tonight. We got George. Oh, wait. We'll play this one first. This one's on.
For you guys, what is the end goal for these delete parasites? Basically, they want complete control. They want complete control over your mind, your movement, your body, and everything. But why is that? Why would they want that if they have everything that they need? They're super rich. They have all of the things that they want. That's because we, on a spiritual level, are actually energetic beings that can create energy through emotions. And if they can put down the programming onto millions, that means those of us with energy can actually create those realities for these elites. That is why I always go, don't emotionally react to any of the news, even though I know I've done it sometimes too, but it's really hard because you're a human being, you're emotional. However, they actually want to be able to control you emotionally. If they can control your mind, they can control your body, they can control your movement, they can control your energy and where it goes. And they need that energy. That is the energy that they need in order to create the reality that they want. So those of us who can actually, either pray, manifest, visualize, all of those things have energetic energy that is being released out into reality, creating that reality, right? So now if these elites who cannot create things because they're dead inside, need us as conduits to create it for them. That means they need emotional manipulation and emotional like reactions to all
Is
of the things
anybody
that
else
they do.
getting
So I
back
fall for it
connected?
sometimes too, because you get emotional, you know, you're a human being. However, if you can make fun of them, if you can like sarcastically answer them, if you can like look down on them, if you don't take any of this shit that they say seriously, it takes away their power over your power, which is the ability to create through energy, because we're energetic beings. And if we all are focused on one energy, and that is the elite's goal for us, that means we can actually create that for them, going against our own human nature. So it's not just the physical aspect of this matrix that they're trying to control. The end goal is to be able to control the energy that we create. And then also through, you know, planetary alignments, they can actually, how should I say this, magnify that energy. And that is why certain things, such as world events, happen on certain alignments of astrology, because it will amplify the feelings and get their goals out even faster.
Okay, she lives in Texas now, I think. Okay, let's get the other videos now. We got one.
Say to you for the people who have this perception of
They're pretty much ignorant. That's what my thought process was.
I just think that's ignorant.
They're not ignorant. They're liberal. They have a name. They're Democrats, demon rats.
If you had to do it all over again, would you vote for Donald Trump again? Yes or no?
Yes, I would.
Yes or no?
Yes.
I think I might know the answer on this thing. Would you vote for Donald Trump? Yes or no?
1,000% absolutely yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, the SAVE Act has put Democrats in an impossible position. As you know, it's the bill being pushed by congressional Republicans and, of course, supported by President Trump. Bigly. If passed into law, it would require new vote registrants and existing registration renewers to provide documented proof of U.S. citizenship before getting accepted. It would also require voters to provide ID to vote. I know, simple. Well, the Democrats oppose it. The reasoning for opposing the SAVE Act goes as follows, and it's not my reasoning, it's their reasoning. They say Black people are incapable of understanding what an ID even is, so they can't get one. So it's Jim Crow 2.0. It's like a literacy test at the polls. Black people can't get IDs to vote. I guess they can only get documentation and identity to obtain EBT benefits, but not to vote. No, never that. Certainly never. That's what the Democrats are arguing. And of course, none of that holds up because polls have come out, have been conducted showing, credible polls, by the way, not like, some super MAGA pollster that I hired. No, credible polls have come out. Countless different outlets have done the polls, organizations that are reputable, saying Black people, white people, Latino people, pink people, blue people, everybody supports voter ID at least over 70% in each race. So over 70% of Black people, 70% of white people, Democrats, Republicans, everyone supports voter ID, except, of course, the people who have built the election fraud apparatus that we suffer under in this country, the Democrats. Yeah. It would rain on their parade if all voters were required to show citizenship and IDs to vote. Schumer has gotten called out. Schumer has gone on the defense. Of course, the SAVE Act will pass in the House. All the Republicans will vote for it, and some Democrats, but Chuck Schumer is using all his resources to prevent the vote from happening, which means he won't provide the necessary Democratic votes to invoke cloture. So he will filibuster it unless Republicans change the filibuster rules specifically for this. There's a chance they do. There's also a huge chance they do what they always do as Republicans, which is give the Democrats everything they want. So here's Chuck Schumer on MS Now. Well, it's MSNBC. No one calls it MS Now. He was confronted on the numbers, the poll numbers, And Schumer, of course, invoked the same argument. And then I'll show you a video of black people getting asked if they can obtain an ID. It's a video that's going viral. It's like a throwback video that Daily Wire took, I don't know how long ago, but the video is so relevant today because you have white liberals saying black people are too dumb. Then you have black people saying, no, we can get IDs.
Jess, there's a new Pew Research poll that 95% of Republicans, but also 71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0. And I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against. This is vicious and nasty. And I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate. We're not reviving Jim Crow all over the country. And when the American people hear what exactly it is doing and what its intent is doing, they're going to be against it as well.
So I guess 70% of Democrats want Jim Crow with voter ID. Wow. Well, here's that video from the Daily Wire, and I want you to just pay attention to how the different people answer.
Do you have an opinion on voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad. I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely.
Tell us how.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
A lot of people have smartphones, but you might not have data.
For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed. I also think there's a repression of black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the African Americans.
Now I'm here in East Harlem to ask black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID. So we know what we need to carry around.
Everybody that I know have ID. That's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, an ID.
Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this, some type of trick candy camera?
I know, right? That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's that, on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Would you have a problem getting there if you had to get there?
No.
I know these sound like silly questions. You know how to get to the DMV?
Of course.
You know where it is?
Yes.
You can get there?
Uh-huh.
No problem.
No problem.
Just checking.
Okay.
And I also heard a lot that black people, especially poor black people, have no access to the internet, can't figure out how to use the internet.
That's just stupidity, honestly. Everybody has access to the internet. Even a little kid can figure out how to work the internet.
I had access to the internet for years.
You know how to use it properly, right?
Exactly. I do it at work. So, of course, I know how to use it. My kids know how to use it. They all have iPads, iPods, whatever.
Your phone has data?
Mm-hmm.
You can access
Unlimited.
Unlimited data.
Mm-hmm. I use my phone as a hotspot.
What does that say to you for the people who have this perception of black people?
They're pretty much ignorant. That's what my thought process is.
I just think that's ignorant.
They're not ignorant. They're liberal. They have a name. They're Democrats, Demon-crats, demon rats.
Ignorant.
Ignorant. That's the word I'm
very
hearing a lot.
ignorant.
Ignorant.
It's very, very ignorant.
Does it sound racist for somebody to say that?
I think it is a little racist because, you're putting people in a category and you have no idea what you're talking about.
Maybe a little bit of racist in it, but like I said, I think it's more stupidity and ignorance.
You judging somebody, like, but you judging them because they black, saying that they don't got it.
What people are they talking to? Who are these people talking to?
Do you have a problem that if you go to vote and they say, "Can we please see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are"? Are you
Love
cool?
showing my ID.
You got no problem with that?
Nope.
Would you have a problem if when you go to vote, if they say, "Can we please just see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are"? Do you have an issue with that?
No.
Would you have a problem if there was a rule where you have to show your ID in order to vote?
I don't think so. No.
Would you have an issue if there was a rule saying you got to show your ID before you vote?
Nah.
Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
Elizabeth Warren was also asked, why she opposes the SAVE Act, and she said almost the exact same thing Chuck Schumer said, because the talking points have been released to the Democrat members of Congress.
This week to the floor for a vote. Do you support voter ID for elections?
Well, it depends on what you mean by voter ID. When you want to say that everyone has to produce a birth certificate, including women whose married names are not on their birth certificates, that creates a real problem for me.
Well, isn't that just one of the first steps in getting married is getting a new ID?
Actually, it's not getting a new birth certificate, because part of what the SAVE Act does is it says most driver's licenses around the country won't work as an ID, and that creates a terrible problem.
But you need an ID to do just about anything in America. Shouldn't you need one to
don't
vote
need
in
a
elections?
birth certificate. I hope you know that.
9 minutes.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elizabeth Warren says it's a birth certificate that everyone's going to need to provide, which that's a form of proof of citizenship, but there's other forms of proof of citizenship. There's passports if you have one. There's so many ways to provide proof of citizenship. And by the way, it's not even to vote, it's to register to be in the system as an eligible voter, not even to vote. To vote, you can come up with a driver's license, but some states will tell you, no, we don't want to see your license as you register to vote. Now, I think this is really interesting. The Democrat governor of Kentucky. Look, if you're watching me from Kentucky, what are you guys doing? Why is this guy your governor? Why is Andy Beshear still your governor? He once again is coming out with stupidity as a Democrat, of course. And now he's opposing an election integrity measure that the entire country supports.
Majority of Americans support. Kentucky does require voters to show an ID for federal and state elections. Where do you fall on the SAVE Act specifically?
Well, I consider myself pragmatic. I think that we can agree that election security is an important thing. But when you create policies that are so onerous, you push people out who have the right to vote, who should be able to register. And so I think on any policy, you got to look at what's reasonable.
Yeah, so he opposes it. I think it was Andy Beshear himself. He requires IDs to go to his campaign events. Like he was literally taking some of the most draconian measures to verify the people who went to his event. Well, I guess all Democrats do that. But here's a trend that's going viral. And I'll show you this video here, and I'll end the video off with that. This trend's going viral. The right wing has realized that the left will not support voter ID. So they have encouraged the left to support and demand voter ID to prevent Republicans from cheating in 2026. So this is going viral. It's actually trending on X as a separate trend. Thousands of tweets. So get on it, liberals. Don't let these MAGA Republicans steal another election from you, right? Voter ID, proof of citizenship, paper ballots, in-person voting, same-day results. Sometimes I wonder, why didn't the founders just add all this stuff to the Constitution? But then I have to remind myself that they could not have anticipated that in the future, 250 years from inception, you would have people called Democrats named Chuck Schumer who are fighting so they can cheat in elections with mail-in ballots. Yeah, I don't think people who were delivering mail by way of horseback were necessarily anticipatory of what Democrats were capable of doing in the 21st century, hundreds of years ago. So we'll give the founders some slack on that. We'll cut them some slack. They did not think it through. Democrats should have been like, man, there's going to be a group of crooks. We need to do everything we can to protect elections. But yeah, this is going viral. Different people are posting, and the idea is simple. Get Democrats on board. This message right here from this young man is to all Black people. I'm going to play it for you, and then I'll tell you what I think.
All my Black brothers and sisters, have y'all not realized by now that us voting for Democrats is really just us voting for other ethnic groups to benefit from our vote? And this is what Democrats do. They always bring up Black people first. They're like, oh, yeah, we know Black people have been through oppression and da-da-da in this country, but we got to support immigrants, and we got to support LGBTQ, and we got to support all of these other groups that ain't Black people. And if you guys would just wake up, it's obvious that they've basically just been using us as a political tool to further agendas that don't benefit our community. And does nobody find it odd that we as Black people continue to vote for Democrats that basically push policies that will bring more immigrants into this country? And what do the immigrants do when they get into this country? They create communities and isolate themselves, which is the exact thing that Black people in this country opted out of in the 1960s. We didn't want to isolate ourselves or continue building within our own community. We wanted to integrate with the white people.
Great points. What I want to add about all this, I'll say something here and then I'll explain why the SAVE Act is really a game changer. And it's actually bigger than you're told. It's important that it passes. Republicans should do everything in their power, up to abolishing the filibuster, to get it passed. Trump should use all his political will and power to get it through. I think it's that important. But what I'll say here about Black people specifically is there does need to be an introspection, right? Some metacognition, self-reflection. Every single person with melanin in their body needs to deeply consider their future, right? Conservative Black people, liberal Black people alike, we cannot keep having these same conversations every election cycle. It can't be Jim Crow. It can't be civil rights. It can't be slavery every single time. Even on the right, conservative Black people still, even now, will talk about issues from a very race lens. And I understand it, but we need to get to a critical point where we're just analyzing what's good versus what's bad, right? So Black people, every election will think slavery is coming back, a majority, and they'll vote Democrat. If they didn't do that, they would just critically think about the issues in each community, right? Memphis people would be like, okay, we're not safe. Let's just vote for a Republican that's going to make us safe. You know, Chicago people would be like, okay, well, Brandon Johnson sucks. Let's get a Republican in, someone who's tough on crime. At the very least, vote for a Democrat that's going to do that. You know, a dino, Democrat in name only. Vote for a Democrat that's going to get you those things if you just want to vote Democrat. But constantly in the 21st century, in 2026, still invoking race, it's just like a low IQ conversation. We need to upgrade. The world is moving away from people and into robotics. Robots are going to have every job. Like, we need to be answering, how do we fit in society? Not just Black people at this point, everyone, right? How do we fit in this larger civilizational transformation? How do we as people fit in as individuals? Slavery isn't coming back. Like, slavery was economical at some point. At some point, it made sense to have a slave. At this point, like, it's not going to come back because robots will do the job at 100x efficiency. I just want Black people to upgrade the conversations being had. So yeah, I appreciate what that guy is saying. I really do. I just wish Black people were talking about more important things like civilizational progress, growth. How does culture shift? How do you cancel out all these rappers pushing degeneracy? How do you change the minds of young Black men from going into criminals or turning into criminals? How do you, like, that's what I think those conversations should go into. But he's right. Democrats are importing people to maximize their votes. And here's why the SAVE Act, in my opinion, is the biggest thing we've gotten from Republicans if they pass it. I've said it on a live stream and I'll say it again. The SAVE Act is a chain of custody requirement at a federal level, on the federal level, at the federal level. It requires every vote to have chain of custody. What is chain of custody? Chain of custody is what happened when you went from point A to point B to point Z. What happened in the interim, in between all that. What the SAVE Act does is it says every vote has to come from a U.S. citizen. It has to come from someone who showed ID. What does that mean? Every ballot has to be linked to someone who shows ID. If there's a law requiring something, then naturally, to be in compliance with that law, you have to create a system that documents how this ballot links to a real person. So you can't have bloated voter rolls. Your voter rolls are literally forced to be clean. Because if you suddenly have non-citizens, then your election is called into question. And so is everything else. So the SAVE Act is big, not just because of the basic fundamental requirement of all voter ID and proof of citizenship, but because of the larger point, which is it now means election officials have to preserve records. And if they preserve records, investigations can actually reveal shenanigans. And if investigations are capable of revealing shenanigans, then they won't do shenanigans. And that's why the Democrats are fighting tooth and nail, because it changes how they think about elections, how they approach their fraud machine. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for watching. God bless and goodbye.
Okay, we haven't done George in a while. I got some short videos. I'll do a little bit more. Two minutes.
Got through doing afternoon chores and blocking liberals, so my hands hurt. Hey, I've got a question. Did you see the photos I shared of that suspect? That is not a subject, okay? Nobody comes to your damn door wearing boxing gloves and a ski mask, and they're going to talk about it's a subject. Go look at those photos again. Women, go look at those photos again. Look at the eyes. Look at the eyes. I swear to you, and I know I'm wrong. I know that I'm wrong, but I swear to you, that looks like a woman with a drawn-on mustache. Maybe I'm wrong. I got the worst feeling that I know who this is. I'm not going to say it because I'll get attacked. I mean, besides, the liberals have already said it's President Trump dressed up with a disguise. They've already said that. If your mama lives 10 minutes from you and you invite her over for dinner and games, why wouldn't you run down the road and pick your mama up? Why would you make her take an Uber? Now, we all know that the Uber driver is not a suspect. You know, he has nothing to do with this, but something is going on. There was a reason that woman took an Uber instead of them going to pick her up. There's a reason. And I'm telling you something, guys, I think they better check that wheel. I think they better see what was going on. This lady was at the end stage of her life, basically 84 years old. I'm just wondering if there was some jealousy going on, that maybe somebody wasn't getting what they were supposed to be getting. And we've all sat back and run our mouths about this and had conspiracies, and we're all probably going to be wrong, except for the liberals, because I guarantee it's going to be Donald Trump that was in that ski mask. Y'all just wait. Look at the photos. What do you think? Why would you make your mama take an Uber if she's 10 minutes away from you? Why is the police continually going back to that house and then doing where they're looking for blood stains? Did they check the wheel? How'd they know that the camera was disconnected? Obviously, it wasn't disconnected enough. We got those photos and a video, and I think it's going to break wide open. I think within the next 2 days we're going to know who did this. Good evening, everybody. I just got through.
Okay, that was another important one from her. Do this one. I know.
Has admitted to misconduct, that hundreds of thousands of dollars from a former Tuskegee airman.
1 week after being indicted, County Court Judge Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez has been suspended. That order came down today from the State Commission on Judicial Conduct.
And we're back, y'all. Thank you for watching today. Go ahead and hit that like button, my people. You know that it helps us out a ton. And of course, it helps you because it helps us keep bringing you these stories every day. Now, y'all, continuing with our series of judges behaving badly. Y'all, this has popped up on my timeline just over the past day or so. It kept popping up. So I guess maybe you all might be interested in hearing about this case. There's a judge out of the Chicago area, y'all, who took advantage of her uncle, an elderly man, a hero, a national hero, a former Tuskegee airman, y'all. She was apparently in charge of his affairs, y'all. A judge. She's in charge of his affairs and bilked him out of over $200,000. And then when she got caught, Y'all are going to see this is just a wild story. Then when she got caught, not only did she keep putting his money into cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, so that it would be harder for anybody to trace or to get back out of her grubbies, but she also used the law to get out of paying and probably to get herself out of jail, y'all. So this is just a wild story. We're going to bring you the details of that here. And also, just a follow-up on the Judge Speedlin Gonzalez. You're seeing her on your screen now. She was indicted for her dirty deeds in her own courtroom, y'all, when she unlawfully restrained a lawyer in her courtroom. We're going to follow up on the latest with her. She's up for re-election soon, y'all. So, yeah, just a lot going on. But anyway, y'all, let's go ahead and get into it. But before we do, y'all, you know that we are a paralegal school. If you've been watching our program now, you know that we've been around for 23 years. You know that we help people get going in the paralegal field. You know that we've helped hundreds of people since
Cook County's top juvenile court judge in 2020. Around the same time, the state Supreme Court, which investigates attorney misbehavior, alleges as her uncle's power of attorney, Martin used at least $246,000 of funds without his authority for her own personal purposes.
It really upsets me when somebody takes advantage of the Tuskegee Airmen.
Her uncle was Chicagoan and Tuskegee Airman Oscar Wilkerson, who died in February. Earlier this month, a judge ordered Martin to pay Wilkerson's estate a jaw-dropping $1.1 million. Now we've learned she's owning up to it. In this affidavit obtained by CBS 2 filed Monday, Martin herself states the evidence would clearly and convincingly establish the facts and conclusions of misconduct. The first steps towards almost guaranteed disbarment.
So here she is taking advantage of this national hero, as I said. And what did she do? She put the money into Bitcoin, I guess in order for it to be harder to confiscate, harder to track. It would be easier to move from one place to another. You don't need any permission. You don't have to send it through a bank. So yeah, y'all, this lady was serious about getting that money.
Most of her new wealth into harder to track Bitcoin. She didn't communicate with them and later ignored the judge overseeing the lawsuit. Martin repeatedly failed to show up for court hearings, the judge ordering her to halt all transactions. But court documents show she ignored that too, continuing to move money.
It makes me wonder what is wrong in Patricia's heart that she would do that to somebody.
In the end, the judge ordered Martin to pay triple what she took, $1.1 million for the $250,000 she stole. But she knows the law and used it to get that $1 million judgment thrown out, in part because Wilkerson had died.
She tried to drag it out, I believe, hoping that my grandfather and other people would pass away before justice could be served.
Martin lost her law license as a result of all this, admitting the evidence would clearly and convincingly establish the facts and conclusions of misconduct. Misconduct we asked her about back in 2023. Judge Martin, is there anything you'd like to say to the Wilkerson family about what's been going on?
You can speak to my attorney.
In the months that followed, this became a criminal case too. Martin charged with money laundering and financial exploitation of an elderly person. Late last year, that case quietly ended as she pled guilty to one felony theft count, sentenced to 4 years of probation.
So she stole over $200,000. It looks like never had to pay the money back, and then was sentenced to probation, y'all. Sentenced to 4 years probation?
Wow.
That's just wild, y'all. Again, I think people generally trust the legal system in this country. I know that I'm a little bit sensational with these videos, but that sort of thing makes you say, come on now. We need to trust these judges. We need to trust the legal system. And that's not a way to increase trust at all. And now we're going to turn to Judge Speedlin Gonzalez, y'all. You're going to hear, in case you don't know what she did, you're going to hear a couple of more details about her case here coming up. And she's going to be going to trial soon as well. Let's take a look.
1 week after being indicted, County Court Judge Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez has been suspended. An order came down today from the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. And KSAT Investigates Dylan Collier has been following this story. He's been on it since the very, very beginning. And I'm just wondering if this surprised you in any way coming down today.
Ernie, I'm surprised it took this long. We've had some case precedents recently in other counties in our viewing area. Usually this suspension without pay comes within a day or two. This order comes on the heels of Speedling Gonzalez being charged with felony unlawful restraint, 2024 altercation with a defense attorney she had handcuffed in court. The order was made public this afternoon and is very direct. Speedling Gonzalez is suspended without pay and is barred from her court until the charges are dismissed, she's acquitted, or the commission issues a follow-up order. No official plans have been announced on how cases assigned to County Court 13 or the Reflejo Specialty Court will be handled. It's likely a visiting judge will sit on the bench for the time being, and some cases could be farmed out to other misdemeanor courtrooms. Speedling Gonzalez is on the March 3rd ballot seeking re-election. Neither she or her criminal defense attorney responded to requests for comment on the suspension order.
So she's suspended without pay. That's better than what happened to Judge Hannah Dugan. Remember her up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin? She had helped that person in the country without permission get away from ICE. She was still paid up until she resigned, y'all. And my information, she's still going to collect her pension. So yeah, y'all, we're going to keep bringing you these stories of judges behaving badly. Again, this is not all judges. It's not most. It's, I do definitely think there's a lot of this going on, but I think the vast majority of judges are doing their jobs properly and are good people. Drop a comment, y'all. Do you think that 4-year probation sentence was correct? What do you think should have happened to that judge who stole that money from her uncle?
Okay, I'm going to do a few more.
Got absolutely demolished by Todd Lyons, the acting director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I had to say that really slowly because sometimes I talk really fast and I stumble over my words, guys, and that was a hard one, okay? But this was during a DHS oversight hearing, and it was absolutely beautiful to watch. Swalwell demanded Lyons' resignation over a photo taken by a journalist. This was a photo of a kid. You've probably seen it. The kid with the blue hat looking all sad, standing by an ICE vehicle. And this was a photo that the media immediately ran with and blew completely out of proportion. The photo was framed as definitive proof that ICE agents are basically the Gestapo, cold, heartless monsters, people who would go supposedly as far as to arrest a child. Oh no, how could you support this? How could anyone defend ICE? It's absolutely horrible. Or so that's what the media says. And this is the same playbook we see from the left every single time. They lie. They flat out lie. And then their media allies latch onto that lie, amplify it, repeat it, distort it even further until you've got everyday Americans sitting at home absolutely aghast at what they think ICE is doing. Outraged, horrified, convinced that immigration enforcement officers are just cold, heartless villains. But here's the problem. They're living in a completely fabricated reality. It's a reality that doesn't exist. And instead of correcting the record, instead of clarifying the facts, Democrat elected officials actively reinforce that fabricated reality. They enforce it, they weaponize it, and they use it for political gain. And Todd Lyons was not having any of it. Swalwell tried to grandstand. He tried to moralize this whole situation, and he got shut down hard. But ladies and gentlemen, let's go to this article really quick, and then we'll go to the clip. Eric Swalwell's effort to get ICE Director Todd Lyons to resign during hearing backfires spectacularly when Lyons catches the leftists spreading a vile hoax. It's kind of funny. Why would they even do this anymore? Do they not know that they are lying? Because Swalwell, he literally brought this picture of the kid to this hearing and used it as a justification to try to pressure Lyons into resigning. And it's just like, are you so dumb that you actually believe what is coming from the media? Eric Fang Swalwell If you look here, it says Democrat from China was left humiliated today after trying to con the director of ICE into throwing in the towel when an inconvenient fact was painted out to him. As CBS News reported, the House Homeland Security Committee held a hearing focused on the activities of ICE in the wake of last month's fatal shooting involving 2 leftist activists and the partial drawdown of immigration enforcement in Minneapolis. ICE Director Todd Lyons and Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Rodney Scott and Joseph Edlow, Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, all appeared at the hearing to testify. And this is what went down when Eric Fang Swalwell tried to grandstand and confront Todd Lyons and pressure him into resigning. I mean, take a listen to this. And if this does not make you just absolutely die laughing, you're just not human. Take a listen.
A couple nights ago, I met with a woman who works as a cashier at a grocery store, and I told her I was coming to see you, Mr. Lyons, and she said, will you ask him, and she didn't want to give her name. She was terrified to give her name. But she said, when I get off my shift around midnight and I walk through the parking lot to my car, she said, somebody rolls up in an unidentified van and gets out wearing all black and their face is covered and they don't have any identification. And they asked me to get into the van. How do I know who they are? How does she know, Mr. Lyons? How does she know if they're an ICE agent or bad guys?
Sir, ICE agents have identifiable placards on their uniforms as well as their badges representative, but you won't see ICE agents rolling through the parking lots and just snatching someone up. ICE does intelligence-driven, targeted enforcement operations.
Well, Mr. Homan and others have said that they target individuals based on the color of their skin and the accents that they speak, and that's why people are running through the fields and factories where they work. Director Lyons, last year—
That is a complete lie.
You said in Phoenix at the Border Security Expo that you wanted to see a deportation process that was like, quote, Amazon Prime, but with human beings. Mr. Lyons, how many times has Amazon Prime shot a mom 3 times in the face?
None, sir, but you're also—
It's the square root of 0.
Why is he still on Congress? Because Sprewell.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yeah, but if we're going to go down that route of my comment, I did say that comment. However, that comment was taken out. If you go back and watch the video, I did say that we need to be more efficient when it comes to removing individuals from the United States, because ICE doesn't detain punitively. We detain to remove. I don't want to see people in custody. At the end of my statement was, again, to your point, it was a industry day for AI and efficiencies. But I did say at the end of it, but we deal with human beings, so we can't be like them.
And speaking
That's
of
the key part that you're leaving out.
Well, speaking of human beings, how many times has Amazon Prime shot a nurse 10 times in the back?
None.
How many times has Amazon Prime dragged a woman out of a car by her hair and then dragged her down the street?
None.
How many ICE agents have been fired for their conduct under your leadership?
Sir, I can get you that data. I'll get that back to you.
Is it more than one?
I'm not going to speak about personnel actions, but I'll get you that data.
Can you tell us if at least, God, I hope at least one person has been fired for their conduct since these operations have begun? Are you telling us you can't even say one person's been fired?
Sir, I'm not going to talk about personnel actions, but we will get back to you.
But 2 people have been killed so far. Is that right? A nurse named Preddy and a mom named Good. 2 people have been killed so far.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lyons, will you apologize to the family of Renee Good for being called a domestic terrorist by the president and his leadership?
No, sir.
Why not?
Sir, I welcome the opportunity to speak to the family in private, but I'm not going to comment on any active investigation.
Is she a domestic terrorist?
Sir, I'm not going to comment on the investigation. And the president and Secretary Noem are elected officials. That's their right to their comments. But as career law enforcement, we won't speak to any.
Do you agree with their comments?
Sir, I'm not going to go ahead and talk about any ongoing investigation.
Will you apologize to the family of Alex Preddy for also being called a domestic terrorist?
Sir, again, I'm not going to speak to any ongoing investigation.
Mr. Lyons, your staying to lead ICE is a decision.
Here it is.
Sir, I'm sorry.
Your staying on to lead ICE is a decision. And I've read your background. You have a decorated career. You've served in the military.
And here it is, guys. Here is the emotional appeal, the heartstrings. They want to tug at your heartstrings because this kid was supposedly detained or arrested. Some people are even saying arrested. And it's absolutely incredible how Todd Lyons destroys Eric Swalwell here and explains what actually happened. I won't get into what actually happened because he explains it perfectly.
Terry, you are what I would call otherwise employable. I think most people would agree this is not the only job that you can get. But since you've been on this job, women have been dragged by their hair through our streets.
What about you?
A 6-year-old child battling stage 4 cancer has been deported, and it turns out he was a U.S. citizen. People are running through the fields where they work. People who've gone to the streets as allies have been shot and publicly executed. It's a decision to stay on at this point. And considering your honorable service in the past and the dishonorable acts that those who have worked for you have conducted, and the disgraceful statements that the leadership above you have said, you now have a decision. Will you stand with the kids who you're supposed to protect, or will you side with the killers bringing terror to our streets? Mr. Lyons, will you resign from ICE?
No, sir, I won't.
Why not?
Because, sir, that child that you're showing right there, the men and women of ICE took care of him when his father abandoned him and ran from law enforcement.
Time has expired.
You never should have gone into
Time has expired. I recognize justice.
That is absolutely the case, ladies and gentlemen. They try to make it seem like ICE somehow detained this child. They try to use that as a justification, saying, well, this is so horrible what you are doing. Will you resign? But the fact of the matter is, ICE was taking care of the child. That completely changes the context. They are lying about what happened here. The father abandoned the child. And guys, they like to harp on all these bad things that happen because ICE is trying to deport illegal immigrants. But the fact of the matter is, this is one of the reasons why we voted Donald Trump into office. And when you have leftists who are increasing the amount of confrontations, trying to make it to where there are so many confrontations with law enforcement that statistically a tragedy will happen. I mean, this is just the facts of the matter, especially when you have these people riled up thinking that ICE is literally the Gestapo or Nazis, and they are kicking down doors just because someone might be the wrong race. When you have these people following on ICE 50 at a time in different zones around Minneapolis, bad things are bound to happen. But when I see this, I look at it objectively and I say, you know what? This is going to happen. These Democrats, if they were to just back off and let Donald Trump do what he was elected to do, these things would not happen, or at least to a much lower degree than they have happened. I think if all of these protesters just backed up, they can protest if they want, but not get involved in these confrontations with ICE. I don't think any of this stuff would have ever happened. Not Alex Peretti, not Renee Nicole Good. And really, to Democrats, these people are just cannon fodder. They're just being used as ways to get what they want. And it's sad because people are losing their lives. But this doesn't make me one bit think that ICE should tone down their deportation efforts. It just shows me just how evil the other side is when it comes to stuff like this. Because we've seen the fraud. We've seen what they're trying to do to American culture. We've seen what they're trying to do with trying to take over power in the United States. And really, guys, we're either for this, we're either for.
So Spreewell thinks he, I don't know about him. I can't believe he's still there. Okay, everybody. Well, everybody have a good Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning. And tomorrow afternoon, late probably. Shopping day tomorrow. Good to see you back, NK. So, Tim, not saying much. Tim's been quiet. Paul, I thought Paul was in. But bye, Diego, Carol, Lucy, Tim, and all the mods. Thank you. Another night. Another day of full intel. So, we'll see what happens. Another day. God bless. Love you all. Remember, please hit the like. And I hope everybody's subbing to the backup channels. Just go to the description box, please. And stay safe, stay strong, keep the faith. And never give up. Signing off for tonight. Chico Nude.